welcome everybody to Red's Ramblings. I have with me today Muhammed and David. Muhammed's in the white, David's in the black. They're from Iran. They host a podcast called Ask An Iranian podcast. Muhammed, David, whichever one wants to go first, go ahead and introduce yourselves a little bit.
David goes first.
I'll go. Do I normally go first? Okay, I'm David. Yeah. I'm half Iranian, half English, born and raised in the south of England. And I moved to Iran, I think it was probably like 16 years ago now, with complete ignorance, knowing nothing about the place, pretty much. So didn't speak the language, didn't know too much about the place. And I've been trying as best I can to correct that ever since.
Muhammad?
Yeah, and I'm Muhammad, simply born and raised in Iran, in Tehran. And that's pretty much it. I've been overseas. I've lived in other places as well.
Okay.
And
what brought you two together as friends?
A mutual friend we have who's now in America.
Actually all of us, like David, our mutual friend, and I, we all met in the same place. I got into a discussion, ironically, with about the American politics with that friend, and later on we started like talking more, and well, I got to know David a bunch of months later. So
yeah, so Muhammad and I think it was about 3 years ago now. Muhammad wanted to set up a podcast as well. Smoking Area, am I right? Was the name?
That was the Smoking Area.
The Smoking Area. Don't forget the.
The.
And yeah, so we did a few shows, and it was kind of sort of tech, Tehran, and all things between.
The ones I did with you were about tech and
stuff
like
you
that.
did this with other people, Muhammad.
Yes,
I thought it was just you.
Yeah. I mean, it was an open partnership.
Yeah, so I was seemingly unwittingly in an open relationship with Muhammad.
Yeah.
A podcast relationship.
Yeah, we've already discussed getting married, and we're about to find out whether or not it's legal in Iran.
So we did a few shows, and then we lost a few shows, or at least the ones that we did went missing supposedly. And then I got busy, Muhammad got busy, and it was only recently because of the sort of COVID-19 situation, I guess, and a little bit more sort of time on our hands. You know, that's what you do, set up a podcast, right? Or at least we reset up a podcast, and it was Muhammad who sort of said, we're trying to think what would we do it on, and you know, they say, you know, do it on what you know, or you know, as they say, write on what you know. So obviously, you know, I know how difficult it is to try and be Iranian, and Muhammad knows very well how it is to be Iranian. So we thought it's kind of funny to have almost a sort of, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, I guess, the title to a degree, like Ask An Iranian. You'll see other podcasts like Ask An Architect, Ask A whatever. So we came out with that title, and thankfully it's kind of taken off.
Really. Yeah, I gotta say, like, because we get like accused of trying to represent Iranians, it's just like not that. I mean, we're just two Iranians. We're answering questions, so that one too.
Yeah, I mean, the title flows off the tongue very well. That's for sure. I do like that. Ask An Iranian, Red's Ramblings. They kind of they flow very well.
You're killing it with that name, though. That's a good name. Well. Now we see you. Now we see you in the flesh. I'm getting the name now a little bit more. Right? I have my suspicions. I have my suspicions.
What were you thinking?
Obviously, I was correct in assuming that red is your favorite color. So that was it. No, are you out of interest? I mean, how visually present are you for your audience?
Oh, I think only my very first episode was audio.
Okay.
Is that the question? I think.
Yeah. So okay, so you normally do. This is normally a visual sort of thing. Oh, we normally hide.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
You're going to expose us now.
Oh man.
Actually, we got like a pair of balaclavas.
I mean, I feel
we put them on, and we don't even film ourselves. We just record our audio, like covering our faces.
Anyways. Sorry. You're asking the questions here. Go on.
Hey, it's all good. I'm all okay with it. So, David, why Iran? Because that is a big jump.
Being half Iranian it was correcting ignorance. So my father's Iranian, mother's English, and growing up in the south of England is a very sort of conservative white sort of upbringing is one way I think you could describe it. And you know, it's sort of, as a child anyway, regardless of sort of any background, you really don't want to sort of stick out up, you know, when you get to up until you get to a certain age, you know, after,
Right.
you know, when I went to university, it was like, right, okay, I'm going to sort of be a bit different here. So yeah, I sort of grew up being quite ignorant of Iran. And that was also coupled with the fact that my father wasn't around so much and didn't really speak too much about it. So yeah, there was this sort of ignorance building up. And then, I just had an opportunity in my sort of, when I was 25, 6, 7 to come and see Iran for the first time. And I'm not sure if you've heard, but Iranians are very hospitable and very warm. And I have a large family, or had a large family here. So I sort of got bit by the bug, I guess, in a sense, and was really sort of welcomed into the family and learned a whole new sort of side of myself that I didn't know. And just after that first visit as an adult, came back again. And then the third time I was like, okay, let's stick it out. Plan was for a year, and stuck around for 8. And although went back to England and have come back here sort of 4 years ago, as and when the sort of nuclear deal, so-called, happened. I thought it would be an interesting time to sort of come back to Iran to see what business opportunities were available, and unfortunately nothing really. I mean, it wasn't quite as I imagined at the time, and you no doubt know how things have gone, which isn't to say the business has been bad, but it's to say the business has been pretty tough, relatively speaking. So so that's kind of what brought me here. I stick around. I don't see the family so much now, but the opportunities in the market, I feel, are still available, even though the times are kind of hard. So I kind of enjoy that. And it's kind of, you could say, an emerging market or an emerging nation. So it's fascinating to sort of see this. And I forgive me for waffling on, but I kind of grew up in the UK and got to sort of my 20s, and culture seemed to sort of fall into retrospective looks, a retrospective way. As in, I remember at university, it became fashionable to like the 50s, then the 60s, then the 70s, and the whole culture sort of folded on itself. And then we almost hit sort of the singularity point, in a sense, where culture became anything and everything, and it became a bit confusing. Sorry to get a bit sort of weirdly philosophical on you there, but meaning and sort of the meaning of things kind of got lost, I feel, in a sense, and coming to Iran, in a sense, became an interesting point of you know, things happen and have that meaning, not necessarily a retrospective meaning, and the culture moves forward in a way that I feel is sort of because it has a sort of counterpoint, as in there is this defined legal cultural sort of structure kind of there. I feel that gives an opportunity for a culture to take shape with reference to something. So probably in conservative places, you might define yourself relative to the cultural sort of side. Am I is this making any sense to you?
I think I understand. I probably am missing some, but I believe I understand enough, I think.
Let's check. Muhammad, did that make any sense?
I was not listening. Sorry.
No, you can, by having a defined single point, you can it's easy to define yourself. And I feel in Iran that there's not the retrospective sort of look, this sort of looking back upon cultures that have been, and therefore the meanings and the messages are not mixed up. These things are happening for the first time. In a sense, we're experiencing things for the first time. So it's interesting to be in a sort of emergent culture, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There you go. Right. Okay. Moving on.
So basically, if I am correct in how my understanding of all that was, over in England, it was more of that civilization had been there forever, you know, been settled, and not a lot of moving forward, as it were. But then you go to Iran and they're growing. So you're like getting to see all this new stuff and this new growth and everything.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got.
That's a good description. Yeah. So maybe another peculiar way maybe to look at it is the younger peoples like to rebel against things, but in England, the rebellious side, in my experience, is kind of encouraged. So it becomes really frustrating or weird as a sort of youngster to grow up and everyone's like, yeah, you do you. Yes, you smash that thing on the ground. You do your interesting, weird music. And if you're truly at heart rebellious, it's probably a bit frustrating to be so encouraged to be rebellious, but sort of maybe that's a tendency within me. And then Iran, in a sense, gives a clear, defined point for understanding, I believe.
Okay. All right. So, Muhammad, on to you. You said you've traveled as well, right? So
a little bit.
What other places have you been to?
Europe and the Middle East, the rest of the Middle East. I mean, I've been to Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, of course, like some countries in the Gulf, like UAE, Qatar, and and places in Europe. On top of my mind, Italy and Spain were my longest stays.
Okay, all right. Well, I would have to say I kind of have to tag along with David here. Being from America, obviously there's sometimes a preconceived notion of the Middle East, right? From back in the day. So you guys are my second country from the Middle East. I just not even 2 hours ago spoke with a man from down in Bahrain, and that was the first
beautiful country.
Oh, whoa, love that talk. That was a great conversation. So as an American who knows that some of the preconceived notions are not even close to being accurate for the Middle East, I've been wanting and glad that today I'm finally able to break into that area of the world, of the Middle East, to shed some light, at least for us here in the States, for whoever watches me. It's not what sometimes you hear or grew up hearing. You know what I'm saying? So, David, I'm sure you've definitely came across that for sure. I would assume growing up over there, you kind of probably had some of the same or grew up around the same preconceived notions of the Middle East, even though you are half Iranian. So what was one of the biggest culture shocks that you've come to know since?
Oh, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble if I say the things I really saw and thought at the time. I mean, the ignorance was really quite, I was very ignorant of the place. And of course, as you kind of hint towards, I believe that the media represented the place in a certain way. And it was, what was weird for me, first off, was like, okay, it's not all deserts, and where are the camels? And I partly joke, but it's partly serious. But it was sort of how modern Tehran was quite the sort of shock for me, like seeing high-rise buildings and also the mountains as well. I mean, if you come into Tehran itself is 1,500 meters above sea level. Anyway, it's a high altitude place, and therefore coming at the time I did, seeing the very high Alborz mountains and then seeing them snow-capped was kind of peculiar. And at the time I came, I didn't realize that it actually snows in the winter in Tehran as well. So until I lived here, it was a bit sort of surprising. Actually, when I do tell my English friends or people who aren't from Iran or familiar with Iran, they also sort of get confused when I say, like, oh yeah, you can go skiing. And the Europeans do come to Iran to ski. So I've seen.
That's news to me.
Yeah. So that was confused. Yeah, like I was. My father lives in quite a nice part of the town as well, so it was a bit shocking for me to sort of see, as we were getting close to his house, seeing all these fancy cars circling the streets with guys and girls looking to sort of get to know one another, with cruising essentially. So the cruising scene was quite sort of prominent for me. As far as cultural things are concerned, I didn't know about the hospitality side. It was very overwhelming. Oh, no, not overwhelming in a nice way. Was the kind of case. So yeah, that was that. So I'm trying to think. Yeah, that was probably, those were the things that stuck out for me. I remember at the time.
I know when I just got off with the fellow named Sergio from Bahrain, he said the same thing in terms like opposite, basically, for hospitality. Like when he would have Europeans come down to visit, because Bahrain is growing a lot of touristy stuff they got going on. They would applaud, the hospitality and how nice everyone down in the Middle East is. And he's like, it's just how we are. He didn't quite get it. It didn't make any sense to him because that's just how it is every day over there. And he took a trip to like Italy or Spain or one of those European countries, and he said he remembered going inside a little cafe, and he had a table for three, and so he talked to the waitress like, "Hey, yeah, we got a table for three. Where to go?" She's like, "Oh, just go over there," and that was it. And he's like, like. He talked about, normally like you go to a coffee shop in, the Middle East, like, oh, yes, come, be part of the family. This place is our place. And it was very warm. And that's just what he's used to. So to hear like the Europeans come down and say, oh, you guys are very nice. Because from what he said, I've never been to Europe either. So I can't say they're not that friendly over there, according to him.
Maybe that's, sorry, Mana, go for it.
No, actually, he is kind of right. I mean, well, when we get out of the Middle East, we got to be ready for that. Like, nobody's paying too much attention to you anyway. Like, it's not only if you're on the street. I mean, it's as if for us, it's like you're not there. Nobody sees you. Nobody looks at you, and we're like, okay, is there something wrong with me? Why isn't anybody paying attention? Why is there nobody to stare at me? Why is there nobody to offer me something like randomly on the street? I mean, because like sometimes they do, even here in Iran. I mean, in Saudi Arabia. I mean, well, they do sometimes. I mean, you see somebody just offer you something.
Yeah.
I mean, so that actually I can attest to that happens.
Yeah.
I think there's a slight sort of misunderstanding though here, because I have many Iranian friends that have like moved to England and say like, oh my God, they're like so cold there. They don't, like Muhammad points out, they don't necessarily come and invite themselves into your life, or that sort of immediate. We need to connect. We need to sort of talk with one another. That doesn't happen, and I think that kind of goes back to the culture. Like in my understanding in England, you kind of show respect by keeping a distance. And not asking. So there are things you don't ask a lot of questions, and that's why the joke is we'll ask about the weather. It's an obvious sort of you'll never ask. You should never. I'm sure it doesn't happen these days, but you should never ask an English person who they voted for, how much money they earn, are the two important ones.
What denomination they are. First, like those are the stuff. But there's also this misconception on our part that like Europeans are cold. Europeans are absolutely not cold. I mean, David and I both have like many European friends who we sit down and joke, and they're warm to us. They're like they're friendly with us because we're friends. I mean, if you're not friends with someone, there's no reason to be like friendly with them currently. So I mean, you can be friendly with them, but not the way like Middle Eastern people expect them to.
Yeah, because now since doing my show, I've spoken with people from a few from in the UK. Scotland, got some friends. I basically talk to just about everybody I've spoken to. Every now and then I try and keep up with everybody. And like some of my really good friends now are just from overseas, just chatting with them, making sure everybody's okay, keeping up with them and all that kind of stuff. So but they all say the same thing. Like, we're not cold, like I know my two friends who are brothers from Liverpool, they have a thing of, if you go over there, it looks dark and dreary, but you could have this random guy come up and tell you a joke. But it's there. Apparently, he says Liverpool's humor is very dark humor. So you might not get the joke, but he'll say it and walk off laughing to himself because he gets it, and it's just some dark thing, but that gives an off feeling to some people, to foreigners who go in and visit. Like, like why are they not coming and talking to me, something like that.
I think maybe there's a north-south also. I mean, you indicate there the people from Liverpool, and for me that's very north, being from the south. And generally, my experience, the northerners are friendlier than, they appear friendlier, as in they are more likely to talk with one another than the southern people keep themselves to themselves. And I wanted to add a point actually about my experiences of going to America, whereby for me it's a bit sort of peculiar or confusing, or has been before my time in Iran as well, because Americans are very friendly and will come up to you and start a conversation in sort of, you know, in the airport, and you sit next to them, you know, on I don't think the English would talk to one another when they're sitting next to one another on a plane, or it's unlikely, depending on the person. But like my inter-America travel has always been chatting with the person next to me, very friendly, very welcoming, certainly in Central America and the sort of heartland sort of area, very warm, friendly people. It always surprises me, and I'm not hugely comfortable. I have become comfortable since living in Iran, because it's probably a similar style situation. But yeah, the Americans are very warm and friendly.
Yeah, I mean the same thing happens like with Germans. I mean, you go to Berlin, you say to someone that you're sorry and you're looking for an address, and they might just look you in the eye and walk away without responding to it. But it's not a German thing; it's a Berlin thing.
Yeah.
So you get away, like you go to Frankfurt, the entire thing is different.
Yeah.
So the same thing happens in Iran. I mean, you go up north, people will if you. I mean, to my experience, I mean, you ask for a direction, they just tell you go that way, like you go all the way south. And specifically when they're in Arab areas, they go way out of their way to take you there. Yeah. So like that really happens. So
yeah, that's something always in Iran that sort of I really enjoy, because anyone will ask anyone sort of where they, you know, where to go, or what's the time or whatever. They really, you just wouldn't do that. And you just struggle trying to find the place, and you're like, heaven forbid, speaking with someone on the streets. God no. But like here in Iran, it's like always happening. They really just put their heart into the explanation, irrespective of class, background, the situation, or whatever. It's just like it's a complete sort of equal level as far as somebody needs to get somewhere, and that Iranian will completely, as if they've been buddies for ages, be like, yeah, you want to go here, you want to do this and whatnot. And they, like on the bus, for example, which stop do I need to get off, for example, they'll always be like, okay, it's 2 more to go, don't worry, I'll let you know, this sort of stuff. And again, like, it's sort of this doesn't look bad for this doesn't look good, I think, for the English when I say it like this, but the Iranians are very sort of, they've got each other's backs a lot, as far as helping them out with incidental moments.
No, not necessarily. I mean,
it's not the problem is if you.
That's just like I would really disagree with you on this one. But
Muhammad, actually, this is our current podcast that we put up at the moment. We kind of say this. What was the Iranians worship strangers?
Yeah, Iranians do worship strangers. Yeah.
So
that's actually a saying in Farsi that literally translate to Iranians worship strangers. So if you're a stranger, you're good. We try to help you. We like you automatically until you're until we're familiar with you and you become one of us, and then we don't give a shit about you. Oh, sorry, just like no, just I mean, if we're I don't know, I cuss a lot. I've been holding back a little bit. I mean, if you want to sleep it out,
do what you want. Fuck it, who cares?
All right.
Yeah. So until you become so your cousin or your immediate or your siblings are not going to help you in any way, right? Yeah, but you're like, oh, how do I get to this location? Oh, give me a second, I'll be back. Like, you know, they go off. The more distant you are relation-wise with someone, the more likely you are to have a better relationship with them.
I'm sure you guys have heard, you know, Southern hospitality when it comes to the States. You know, here in the South, pretty nice individuals. You know, if you ask something, they might not take you there, you know, if you ask for directions, but they have no problem showing you where to go. You know, you just have to either know your roads or know landmarks, something like that. And up in the north, they say it's mainly because it's so cold up there and people are frigid. So they're not as nice because they're just cold and angry all the time. I don't know that, you know, I have no idea about that. But I want to add on to what you were saying, Muhammad, about, or both of you guys, about the hospitality of the Middle East. Because another thing that Sergio mentioned, he was originally from Lebanon. And we got to talking about cuisine, because I'm always talking about food every time I speak to a new country. And he was talking about like their meals. You get like your cold appetizer meal, then you get your warm appetizer meal, then you get like the main course, then you get your dessert course, then you get some other stuff as well, and it's a family, whole bunch of people around the table, feeding off of each other, taking a little bit here and there, and you just feel warm and welcome there. And David, I'm assuming you can agree that's not a thing we have here in the States. It's probably not a thing you guys have over there in Europe either. That sitting around as a family like that is not a
Yeah.
thing here in the States anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up where, it used to be sort of like dinner time, and therefore the family would come together and have dinner together. And that's kind of lost. Now it's down to sort of one day a week, possibly. I mean, when I'm in England, we go to, for example, my uncle's house and have a dinner, but it's the only time the family come together. And even that sometimes sort of like somebody's got something to do. And that's, people are busier, I guess, is one part. Everyone's got their own schedules, doing their own thing. But yes, in Iran, Muhammad, it's sort of, certainly as you say, the dinner time moment or coming together as a family does happen. I don't do it as much here, just because there's not as much family for me here, and but it has happened more here than it does in England.
Of course it does, but the thing is that like it's different from household to household, family to family as well, because like in small cities or even in big cities where families and like extended families, they stick together, that happens. I still see that happening. In case of my family and my extended family, we live in different cities, and we don't do that anymore. There used to be like summer family reunions happening. We would go to this like villa up north and hang out with each other, and we would do like a huge breakfast, huge lunch, huge dinner,
Right.
like 12, 13 people like at the table and whatever. But well, that is not happening anymore. I mean, in my experience, like during the Ramadan, the holy month of fasting and festivities, this iftar was a big thing when you break your fast in the evening.
Okay.
So everybody would get together. But well, after my grandma died, well, nobody did that anymore. But still, there are a lot of families who do it. I can say in my experience, it's a little bit different from the way like Arabs do. But the thing is there, like huge meals, and it's a thing. It's an event.
I can agree there 100%. And just to say, grandmothers are the glue of a whole family.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I can, when my grandmother passed, the rest of the family just, we definitely don't
Same
speak
for
as
us.
much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you said same for you, David?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she
Exactly.
passed away 2 years ago. The anniversary was actually tomorrow, I think. And yeah, just I haven't seen any of the family hardly.
Shout out to all grandmothers, man. Grandmothers
Yeah,
are the
exactly.
best.
Big up the grandma.
And
Yeah.
that's the
There are
glue of every family. Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I wanted to maybe sort of add on a point Muhammad made there, as well as that my belief or my understanding in Iran is families, you come from a family and go to a family as far as your progression in life. And what I mean by that is you stay close to the family, living together until you get married, for example, and then you go and start the new family, and that becomes the new house. We don't so much, it's quite rare that people, in my experience, and I think it's generally the case, people don't live on their own as much in Iran. And there's a mixture of reasons. One, I think they don't want to. Two, it's quite expensive to do that. I think Iranians, again,
and
sociable.
also it's like there's this feeling of being safe with your family. So if you move on, you feel unsafe. I mean, like, I'm sorry, I just like my anecdotal experience is that I left home. I got my own place. I've been I didn't get married, but I moved on. I got out of there, my family's home, and lived on my own for a long while, and it didn't feel as safe
Right.
And it is an anomaly here. Most of people don't do it. I mean, if you move to another city for work or for studying, it's understandable.
Mhm.
But like when I talk to people and I say like I have my own apartment, which is in the area where I grew up, which is 3 minutes walk from my mother's place, and people look at me as if like I'm fucking stupid. Why would I live like, I mean,
Yeah.
if I want to live close to my family, why would I get a separate apartment? Why don't I go back to my own bedroom? And so that is something that is not perfectly understood here. I mean,
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, there's not a stigma in any way to be
Mm.
young and live with your parents. That's kind of the
well, if anything, it's exactly the opposite. It's a value. I mean, you have to live with your family until you are married, whether you're a man or a woman. So I mean, that is a part of
and yeah. So partly it's
Iranian values.
I would say partly it's
think.
by choice, but also by a large, again, an economic factor is, I think, a large part to do with this. You know,
Yeah, but
peop-
I mean, when it comes to like cultural values, if you leave home and live on your own, there's something wrong with you. I don't want to like get like too deep into it, but because like every single member of my family called me as soon as I moved out,
Mhm.
and some of them yelled at me, "Why are you moving out? I mean, you can't do that. What is wrong with you? You're gonna get like uh in trouble with this and that." Like, so it is not I mean, a part of it is the choice, a part of it like is the economical factor, a part of it is, I don't know, maybe other stuff, but
but the reason I say this is because your sort of stature in society relates to the wider family, and you are equivalent to that, regardless of your earning. And therefore, if you, so my experience in the UK would be like, you know, you get to 18 and they kick you out of the house and you live in a dump for ages, and you know, your parents like come and visit and they look at you like, oh my God, what are you living like? But like, why in Iran the parents wouldn't let you be like that, because I mean you couldn't afford sort of to replicate your family wealth scenario, your stature scenario. So or you would only jump, you would live alone if you could replicate that scenario.
You're
If
right.
you can't replicate it, you would never do that, because it would be sort of jumping back in status among people. So, you know, it's better to keep the status and live with parents as opposed to lower the status and live on your own. It's kind of a trade-off. And you know, I was working at a company and employing people at a company, and it always surprised me here that the money I would pay, because the market rate I would pay for people that work here is something like 100, their rent is about 110, 20% of their wage. So like, you know, so like nobody could afford the rent that they would need or want to have to replicate their sort of even a little drop down. They would just never, they would never pay that. Excuse me.
Well, I'm gonna disagree with David a little bit, like, but I'm gonna wait until
That's fine.
his
That's fine.
guest is in, and
I could read your face. I could kind of tell he doesn't agree
Yeah.
with that.
yeah. Actually, this is. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to disagreeing with David again. But there's this thing. I mean, even if your family is rich, even if they can provide a separate apartment for you, there's a name for it, and I would like kind of roughly translate it to a single man's home, and that is not a good thing. Like if they tell you that if you tell people that you live on your own, and it says so you are actually living in some kind of
So you're like a
that
player,
means,
or
like, yeah, it's like kind of like a bachelor's pad. So that comes with drugs and prostitutions and orgies and parties and stuff like that, something like that. So anyway, let's move on from this. Let's agree to disagree on.
I'm not sure how you
this one.
disagree with
And,
me there, but anyway. You just further explained it. I don't see it as a
that's
disagreement.
not an actual disagreement, really.
You know, I gotta say, I mentioned to whoever read the first email that I sent to you guys, I've heard of you guys from your little snippet on Zach's podcast, Say What Needs Saying. And that was just straight audio. And just y'all two going back and forth. You could it was fun. I just gotta say, it is fun.
Thank you.
The slight disagreements, but still friendly. You know, like you could tell you guys are good friends. You have disagreements, but you don't let it come between you two. You still laugh at things and have a good
Yeah,
time.
you should stick around after recording. Yeah. You'll see what really goes on.
Want to see the scars, Jamie? You want to see the scars?
scars?
Right. on his body, not mine. I'd like to say he's getting
Yeah,
them.
I got bad teeth.
Yeah.
I don't bite. I can't bite.
Well, so
Sorry.
David, this one's for you. Since you've moved to Iran, what is the best food that you've come across? Because you're obviously local to,
there's a dish here in Iran that I absolutely love. I myself have made it once. It's quite complicated. Actually, it's not complicated. It just takes a long time. It's called Fesinjun. And it's a sort of, I guess you could call it a stew of walnut ground and mixed with pomegranate juice, along with a lot of oil, molasses, as I'm being told from.
Shout out to Shania.
Shania's in the background is helping. I feel. They run out the stream.
Okay. I thought we were just going. Yep.
Oh, okay. Oh, there
That's
you go.
it.
There you go. Sorry, I thought we lost the connection there when you pulled that up.
No.
This is to die for. I love this, and it depending on sort of, you can mix it to your taste, so you can have it quite sour, which I myself prefer, and I believe the sort of northwestern Iranians like it quite sour as well. But most people kind of like it a mixture between sour sweet. You can have it quite sweet. I think that's sacrilege. You should never have that dish sweet.
Well, my side of like Turk family, they do it sweet.
Oh God,
Yeah.
Muhammad, you need to change your habits there. That's terrible. So you can have this with either. Actually, the first time I had this with duck, which is actually quite rare. To have it with duck, it was amazing. But you'll get it with either chicken. I think mostly it's chicken, or occasionally with sort of mini little meatballs.
Yeah, like meatballs.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I love it. So that's always my number one choice. If available. It's not something you can find. So these types of dishes and stews you don't normally find in Iranian restaurants because they're very much home cooked sort of stuff. So if you don't eat out and have this type of food, some of the great Iranian dishes, I would say, are not dishes you're going to find in restaurants per se. But if it's not going to be that, then it's going to be a type of kebab that is Bornab is called, which is a region in the northwest of Iran that is sort of slightly leaner type of minced meat kebab that is sort of added to a skewer. And it's got sort of a lot more onions and herbs in it, a little bit more than the usual kebabs. That's my sort of second go-to dish. Muhammad, what you got?
How do you, what was that kebab you said?
It's a Bornab. It's a region. It's a name of a
It's a name
town.
of a city.
I don't know if it's a city, but I've actually been there. And it's just served with, so it's served on bread, like a sort of flat bread, and it will come with like tomatoes on the side, onions, and more, importantly, a chili as well. It needs to be super hot, that chili.
What is somag in English?
Somag is sumac, is the English. It's a type of.
Sounds more Turkish.
It's a sort of berry on a bush that is dried and ground and added to the.
No, it comes from a tree, not on the bush.
No, I saw it. Sorry.
Now we're getting the expert sort of addition here. Do help us out, yeah.
No, I actually went hiking last week and I saw a sumac plant for
Me,
the first time in my life. It's not a berry; it's these little nutty things.
Yeah.
And it only grows
Can you hear this,
wild.
Jamie? By the way, are you picking this up?
A little bit.
Okay, so there was where I've seen this also is up in the north. They might be trees, but they were quite small, so that's why I'm calling them sort of bushy sort of things. And I only just saw these were like a fruit of that or a item of that. So
They're hard, though.
yeah, and that's dried and then ground and added. It's what you would add to that sort of minced lamb kebab. You wouldn't add it to chicken, though, would you?
No.
No,
Only
no.
meat, red meat.
Was that just me? Is that just me adding that to
kebab.
chicken? Yeah, so that's sumac as it's called, or sumac as it's called here. Muhammad, what about you? Dishes?
Yeah.
Well, my favorite is also Fesinjun. Then
A little bro fist
yay.
there.
One thing we don't disagree on.
There
Yeah,
you
like
go.
Bormas Habsi, kebab doesn't really is on the top of my list. Really, Bormas Habsi is this another stew. They cook it with red meat, a little bit of fat, I think, and there's this kind of green vegetables in it, and it's really fatty. It's good, and you stink like for 3 straight days after you
Yeah.
eat it.
It's got a lot of lime in it, or at least that's added to taste. And there's various herbs and greens sort of ground up or chopped finely and added in. It's normally served with lamb or mutton. And yeah, that's sort of quite commonly a favorite among Iranians, I would say. Person number 3 here has an opinion about food. What's your number 1?
I feel like unofficially part of this.
You're in now. That's it. Getting
I
a
think-
third perspective
I
here.
think what is it called? The one with celery in it.
Oh, karafs. Khoresh karafs. Oh, I find that revolting. Really? That's interesting. Okay, so there's this other stew that has celery in it, and it also comes with mutton or lamb in it as well.
And I hate celery in all other constellations.
Yeah.
I love it.
Apparently, celery is pretty damn good in this type of stew. So yeah, Iranians will. There's a wide variety of sort of stews that are often had with rice.
Always.
Yeah, I often say this when we get on this subject, that rice is kind of relatively a new-ish thing for Iranians to eat. There's historically bread is more
It
often.
depends where you.
Rice is a rarity.
Third person here, because I did not know this was actually.
Yeah, because we have a phrase in Persian that is you wear your rice shirt, which is to say, like, dress up in your Sunday best, I guess is the equivalent for that. So the phrase, in a sense, indicates that rice is a special occasion dish.
So if you're invited to a lavish feast, and that is where you get the rice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you been to have you had any Iranian food yourself, Jamie?
No, I have not. A lot of, again, because I haven't tried it, but a lot of what you hear from the stateside is it's compared to like Indian food, like very spicy. I don't like spice.
Not
actually,
particularly spicy. But
Iranian food is actually, I would say, sour for the most part. It's more.
That's unique. I don't
and
know
salty,
if-
of course.
Yeah, very salty, very
salty for
salty
sure.
mostly.
But like a sour food in terms of a meal, that's unique for me. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
No, actually, we cut a fresh lime in half and just squeeze it on the.
There's lemon and everything. Lime in everything.
Yeah.
And then the pomegranate. Yeah, it's and then
Pomegranate is
yogurts, of course, had before dinner, but it's predominantly, I would say, although sour, sometimes some sweet dishes. Hot food is, I don't think I know of any dishes that have any chili in.
There are a couple in South. Yeah, there are a couple.
I've had shark
dishes
curry
around the Gulf. So yeah,
I've had shark curry in Bandar Abbas.
I had like that kind of like shark and rice thing, but it was not curry, but it was chili.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah, it's more in the south, but certainly in the northwest, definitely sour food. There's definitely a preference for a sour taste. Can't speak for the rest of the place.
But I mean, a lot of food looks like Indian food, of course, but it's not as spicy. I mean, sorry, what?
I feel like I should join.
Our guest here is has lived in India for some time, so is quite. So this is Jamie.
Hello.
This is
Hi.
Jamie.
I have no idea what's going on, but
Okay,
I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah,
Is this,
I'll
is
get a
this-
chair.
Is this COVID safe? I don't know.
I don't think you can catch go from my ear. So this is Shania.
Hello.
Hello, Shania.
Yeah.
I think judging from what I hear, would be good to have a third opinion, so you get a qualified majority.
So David from Europe, Muhammad, Iran, Shania.
Well, I'm kind of like David. I'm half
Okay.
I'm half. I'm half Austrian, half Iranian.
Okay.
So
Okay. All
you
right.
can pick whichever side you want. Side you want.
All right. And what was the food that you said was your favorite? You were off. I could hear you, but you were still off in the distance a little bit.
Oh, sorry. It's another stew. I mean, obviously, like these guys named the top 3, I think,
Right.
in terms of food. But I think if I had to pick another one, it would be this. It's called khoresh de karafs. Karafs is celery.
Okay.
And I think the reason I love it is because I generally hate celery in all its other forms. But this one's great. So
All right. And this for you and David, since do you both? I know David lives in Iran now. Have you moved as well, or are you visiting? If you don't mind me asking.
No, I moved. I moved back
Okay.
beginning of the year. Yes.
So, what are for both of you guys home dishes that you miss? Like for you from Australia that you don't really have anymore or can't get because that's a whole other ways away. And same for you, David, that you miss.
Sorry. Funnily enough, I did live in Australia, but I'm half Austrian, so different.
Okay. Oh, I probably heard wrong. I apologize.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Austrian home cook, not schnitzel, as you would have probably guessed. What do I miss? I miss the pastries. Honestly, I miss really good bread. Austria has such good bread and such good pastries. And I mean, you get this different bread. The great thing here is you literally pick up the bread from the bakery. He literally takes it out of this like oven thing and he hands it to you and it's still hot and you take it home. So that's delicious in its own way. But I do miss the variety and the nuttiness of Austrian
pastries
bread.
are amazing. Like no matter, pastries are great. What about you, David?
I think
What's the food that you miss?
Well, I can't obviously say that I miss sausages. Really miss sausages. Bacon. Oh dear. Okay. I shouldn't go any further. But yeah, things like I like Yorkshire puddings, Sunday roast. Oh,
okay.
Pies. Like sausage rolls.
You gotta go, man.
Oh.
The way you're
Like
looking,
when
the way
I
you're sounding, you gotta go.
I had my auntie and uncle on my English side lived in Dubai for a while, and I would visit Dubai from Iran. It would be funny. I'd turn up at the house, and my auntie would, I'll be back in a second, and she'd go away for like a minute or two, and come back with a bacon sandwich. She was like, I know you can't get it there. Like I know. She's like, here you go. It's time to catch up.
Oh, you should have told me sooner. You're in for a treat next week.
Oh, you can find bacon because the Armenian community here in Iran, they're allowed wine and bacon. Am I right? Yeah. So those things.
Friends.
Yeah. So it rarely happens, but of course, the deal in the Middle East.
Yes.
No swine. So those are the things I miss.
What about hobbies? What are like sports hobbies? What do you guys do during your free time?
Podcast.
Podcast.
Free time. I remember that.
Yeah. We kind of like, but David and I, we just hang out, drink coffee, or possibly other certain beverages sometimes, but and we be each other's contrarian and get into like
philosophical debates.
Yeah, arguments that never end well.
Yeah.
So
Shania, what's your pastime, hobbies? Do you get time? You're so busy. I haven't seen her for like ages.
I know.
She moved to Iran. I saw her more when she wasn't living in Iran.
that would recommend to getting closer to the microphone.
No, that's okay. I think actually what everyone does. I mean, for me, traveling is always a very big part of life. So, and Iran has such amazing places to go. You can go camp out in the desert. You can, go into forests. You can do lots of hiking. You have really high mountains here. So, you can ski in the winter, which is being half Austrian. I've been doing since I was like 2. And I think like time off, I'm currently involved in a project that is also a big love child, which is very, a big deal of architecture and restoration of an old building. So and it's in the middle of the desert, so I get a lot of time in beautiful nature.
Oh, well, that's great. I mean, we definitely need to preserve history. Like, I'm a huge lover of ancient history and just history in general. So hats off to you. That's great. I like that.
Thank you.
I've been hiding my pastime. I should confess now. No, I'm gonna confess.
Oh God.
This is like, if that means anything to anyone.
I was gonna ask if that was it. I thought so.
It is.
I was
Jamie.
like, I think
Are you?
And it's been there for how long? It's been there since the existence of Pokemon.
A shower. Yeah. It's been four and a bit years.
He has it on dates. He wears it on dates. It's true.
Jamie, are you a goer? I mean, a Pokemon goer.
I do not Pokemon Go. but I do play Sword and Shield. I do that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I go that far. And, you know, when it came out, you know, I'm 30, so I remember hundreds of Pokemon cards having them. I was there for that. I was there for that.
Yeah, I'm too old for the Pokemon cards, but let's not go any further. Actually, I'm probably too old to be playing Pokemon Go. I should just say that.
You are definitely too old to be playing.
Hey, oh come on! I'm still below average age in Iran of the Pokemon playing community. Here,
Well, that's a very
maybe you're
specific
just
criteria.
the only one who puts their real age.
And the thing is that you both are contributing to the new Japanese imperialism. You gotta stop somewhere. I mean,
taking over one Pokemon at a time.
Enough of nukes.
Is there a big Pokemon Go scene in Iran?
No, not at all. The group that I'm in on the Telegram app is about 50, 60 people in the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's another one in Mashhad as well, which has about 30 people in it.
Yeah.
And that's the extent of it.
Yeah.
Because when the game was launched, it wasn't blocked locally, so you could play it. But then suddenly the park, there was a group that was set up, and the plan was that 2,000 Iranians were going to gather in the park to play Pokemon Go, and the police got caught onto this and went to the park and arrested a lot of people for going to the park.
So large
and then it got blocked the next day.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, so it never really, that kind of killed it off immediately. And there probably would have been a community, but ever since then, it's kind of had just a really small following. Yeah, having a VPN to be able to play it is needed. So no, not a big community, I'd say, unless 50 plus 30 in Mashhad is big.
Yeah. I mean, there would be a community in Shiraz, but Shirazis don't walk around. Like they're stereotypically lazy.
Yeah, they have a reputation for. Yeah, they have a 4-hour moment of the day where they just go home from work, sleep for 4 hours, and then go back to work until
No, I
the
thought
evening.
it was the other way around. It's just like they go to work for 4 hours and the rest are resting.
Well, they go to work at like 10, 11, and then they close shop at 1, and they come back at 5, and then they're open till 8 or 9.
Yeah, quite
It's
laid
the same
back.
in Kashan, actually. I think it's the same everywhere outside of Tehran.
Yeah.
I think we're just in the wrong city.
Well, Shirazis are the scapegoats for
That's
the rest of us.
Yes.
We're like that in Tehran as well. So.
So what we're saying is we're work shy here sometimes, and some parts of the nation are very work shy.
Yeah.
Work shy, I like
That is. Okay, that's a
All right.
nice long tangent.
I mean, it kept me laughing.
And,
I enjoyed it. It was.
Sports. Oh, football, number one.
Definitely football. Like soccer.
Soccer, yeah.
Oh, but wrestling is the big sort of wrestling and weightlifting are the areas that Iran excel in as far as international competitions are concerned.
Yeah. Also, some other martial arts.
Yeah.
I think what would be interesting to mention is that we actually, gyms were actually invented in Iran. We have these places. They're called Zurkhune, which is literally, it means like a
powerhouse.
Powerhouse, not electricity power, but actually physical power. And you should really look it up because it's fascinating. It's a combination. I think it was like the world's first aerobics, basically, because it's a combination of, you have these weights, and they're these wooden weights. It's like a long wooden block with a little handle, and you have two of them, and you have them in different weights.
Yeah, like a baseball bat, but you can't actually bat with it.
A swollen baseball bat.
There you go. Yes, exactly.
Oh,
and
that looks like my tummy.
Yeah, and those are the weights, and you have these movements. It's really fascinating. Yeah, and then you have these metal rods that the guy's holding, and and what's interesting is you have usually a percussionist in the background, and you have some sort of rhythmic music that people move with. There you go. So and it's a place that's traditionally reserved for men. Nowadays, women can enter and watch. It's almost like a performance. It's beautiful. You don't have that many left. But me not being a fan of watching sports, I always found this the most fascinating.
actually, the title cover for our podcast is kind of based on that.
Yeah.
We digitally re-enhanced some of the Zurkhune goers as our,
Yeah.
and some might say it represents Muhammad and I.
Yeah.
Although getting us to do any sports, good luck.
Mhm.
Are y'all able to hear me yet, or do I need to type?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we
better
can
now.
hear you.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Yeah, like one of our local gyms, we have those metal bat things. Only recently though.
Mm.
And I've tried a little bit of it, but as you can see, I don't work out a lot either. So yeah. So what about music? How is music over there? Because I love all music from everywhere. Talk a little bit about the local music scene.
Yeah, I'm not brave enough to answer that question, Jamie. I'm sorry.
It's quite diverse.
Uh-huh.
You go to different areas in any sense, areas of culture, the like age groups. You find like different tastes. But there's the huge variety of Iranian music that I'm not really familiar with. But yeah, I mean,
I think what's interesting is that a lot of like contemporary Iranians are very oriented towards the West.
Okay.
You see, like everyone listens to Western music. Like literally everyone, you get in a taxi and you know, like people. But I do think a lot of the contemporary like Iranian pop music is also oriented by that. So you have a lot of, you know, like house beats and like techno beats and everything. I think there's also a bit of a movement back to traditional Iranian music in a contemporary way, which I think is very good.
because this quite recently, this iconic Iranian singer died, and so probably that could be one more reason for a lot of Iranians to go back to traditional
Right.
Yeah.
music out of whatever.
Yeah,
Nostalgia.
there's a lot of like often when I'm walking around the streets, catching virtual sort of creatures, it surprises me. Like in the park, the amount of like guys walking around listening to music from their mobile and practicing rap over the top. It weirds me out. It happens quite frequently. And we had a guest actually on one of our shows recently that's a music producer and remixed the music that we use for our show. He said that, like, you know, Iranians are really into rap these days, or at least this is quite sort of dominant here. When someone says to me, you know, think of Iranian music, I just think of sort of like an Eastern beat and somebody
like
moaning,
wedding music. Woo!
like somebody, in most cases, somebody whining about the loss of a loved one, or not in a death way, but losing their girlfriend's gone off somewhere or something.
Oh, heartbreak.
Yeah, like heartbreak, but with a vocoder voice over the top, like, you know, like Cher in the
like
really
synthesized voice.
And that for me is like the majority. Like when someone says Iranian music, that comes to my head. Vocoder, moany Iranian man to a beat. But yeah, it's wide.
There is more to that.
There's I kind of like some of the old school sort of Iranian pop sometimes. Vegan.
I mean, apart from those types of music being familiar and somewhat nostalgic sometimes, I don't really like them.
I think none of us are really qualified to talk about
Yeah,
Iranian
I mean-
music, honestly.
I mean, if I actually start talking about Iranian music, I'm going to be like insulting a lot of people, pissing a lot of people
I know,
off. So
yeah, me
it's just,
too.
yeah,
I
let's
know.
not get into that.
I know.
I already
That's
went
fair.
too far. I'm sorry.
That's
I
fair.
already went
That's fair enough. Well, before we go, I want to give each of you guys a chance, all three of you now, to share something that you feel the world or whoever watches this should know about Iran. So start with you, Sheena, in the back.
No, why me?
Oh, thank you. Give me a bit more time.
No,
now.
I wasn't even here for the whole thing. Come on, why don't you start? I don't even know what this is about. I have no idea I just came to my friend's house and suddenly I'm in this thing.
Blame them. It's their
She's
fault.
showing us
Oh,
up now.
sorry.
She's answering so good.
Yeah, that
What should the world know about Iran? There's so many misconceptions. What one thing would I want to sort of correct them about? or let them know about? I can't.
I mean, you moved there, so you must have something.
Yeah, I want to give some sort of useful sort of point, but I'm trying to think like, okay, do I make this like naked? Do I warn people about something about Iran, or do I entice them about something about Iran?
No, say anything you want to say, and we're gonna have Jamie cut it out.
I think
if it comes wrong, if it comes out wrong.
I don't know. I just say like give Iranians a chance to sort of explain themselves, because the sheer volume of misconceptions about this place, even after all these years that I've been here, I still every day I'm like,
That
oh my
is
God, this place.
all Iranians are doing all the time. We're always explaining things to, like, explaining ourselves to like other people. So yeah.
All right then. So I just say like, hold
Just
up,
be
it's
patient.
complicated. There you go. Hold up, it's complicated.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's my answer.
But
Yeah.
like I would say, like, well, first of all, of course, Iran is not a monolith. The culture is not a monolith. There is no single culture. There is no, I would say, even a majority. Iran is a combination of like 200 different minorities. So once you learn about something about Iran or Iranians, you think you learned it
Yeah.
about one particular group of Iranians. So you're always in for a surprise. Like,
Right.
when you look up Iran, it's always like a authoritarian, like Shia thing, like Shia Muslim thing that comes up, but that's not the case when you move on from the government. So the culture is quite diverse. I would say religion, country, and women are the dominant factor in Iran. You gotta respect those. That is something you gotta be. You gotta know about Iran, in my opinion.
I think what I want to add is exactly that, you know, and I just want to extend it to, I think Iranian people are remarkably similar to everybody else. And I think that's what I want to leave here, is that it might seem like we live on another planet, but you know, we don't. It is much more adventurous living here compared to, you know, Vienna, where I would take the metro to work every day and everything would be perfectly smooth and fine. But I really think what I would like the world to know is that Iranian people of any age really share, you know, the same fears, the same joys, you know, the same struggles. Like, you know, you have amazing people, you also have assholes. Yeah, you know, I'm not saying Iranians are great. I'm not saying Iranians are terrible. I love this place. It's why I moved back. But yeah, I think if there's one thing I want the world to know, is that it's very similar to any place else. It might be a different color, but yeah, we're all in the same boat.
No, yeah, I mean that's one true, about as true as anything can be, because I think now I've spoken. You guys are going to be 30th something country that I've spoken to now, and from people from, you know, Japan, the Philippines, Australia, everywhere, Ecuador, everywhere that I've spoken to. At the end of the day, and I probably say this on every single cultural episode, you come to find out that even if so-and-so grew up literally on the other side of the planet, you know, different religion, different upbringing, rich, poor, doesn't matter. We're all the same. You know, all you have to do is respect. Even if you don't have to agree, like you guys don't agree, obviously, on some stuff, but you respect each other. You guys are able to talk it out amongst yourselves and come to some sort of friendly agreement, whether it's to agree to disagree or whatnot. You don't go at each other's throat, and there's a lot of that going on. Doesn't need to happen. Nobody, you know, what makes us all unique is everyone is so different and yet so alike. Just because you're different doesn't mean that person's any better or less than you are. It just means they're different. They're still human. We still love family, love, you know, music, love, you know, spending time with each other, all that type of good shit. And it's It's all we need to do. So yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
We're gonna go at each other's throat now.
Yeah, that's
Coming
it.
up.
Do you see this? Pretend we say goodbye and then we'll go at it. Why did
Just
you
stop
say
recording.
that, Mohammed? What the
Oh,
hell?
my
How
God.
dare you represent Iranians like that? Oh my God.
You Brits come over here. You come from Europe and tell us what to be like you.
They take
Assholes.
take over half the world, and then they get to tell you what. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
David, Muhammad, and Gina, if you want to jump into, if you guys have anything to plug, any future episodes you have about to come out, anything else other than your podcast that you maybe want people to follow, now's the time. Floor is yours. Take it away.
Oh, you know what I'd say actually, Mohammed, something I feel like a bit of an imposter, right? We struggle to get questions about, like genuine questions about Iran.
We got a few.
We've gotten a few.
Yeah. We
but
made a lot of those questions up ourselves. But
Okay.
so if you've got a real juicy question, and
Yeah.
anyone who's listening at the moment, send it along. We wanna hear what you want to know about Iranian culture, people, or if you want to know what Iranians think about things.
Yeah. Like which ones are worse? I mean, snakes or scorpions, saying when you have nightmares about them. So
Yeah. So if anything, I mean, obviously they can find us at Ask An Iranian on all the obvious places. But more importantly, we want to hear your questions. So send them along, no matter how weird. Because I think people feel a bit embarrassed about. I find this they don't want to ask Iranians questions because they feel that they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to insult your culture.
yeah.
So
don't worry about that. You're not insulting us. That is going to be us insulting other Iranians. So you're good.
Yeah.
So,
Ask us. We'll take care of the insulting part. So just anyone listening, and don't be shy. Come forward. Ask your question. We'll do our best to answer it.
and we'll be grateful.
All right. Well, everybody, like they were just saying, Ask An Iranian.
Jamie, we've got
It
the
did again?
stuttery bit back again.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I
All
feel
right.
like you're saying something really philosophical and important.
It's amazing. Yeah, that's it. No,
Not really.
That's a kung fu beard that makes
I
him
know,
look
that was
like
so wave.
that was good.
So
I like
smooth.
that.
Why-
It's
why-
really silky smooth. Look at
Wow,
that.
what product do you use?
Yeah, you gotta.
oh,
Oh, there it is.
Oh,
Look at that.
that's it.
oh,
That's
now
it.
you're
I'm gonna
just
grow a beard.
teasing us.
Ask An Iranian. Check them out. Ask them questions. And yeah, you guys have yourself a wonderful rest of your night.
Oh,
Excellent. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the plug.
thank you.
All right. Take care.
Take
Yeah, you
care.
take
bro.
care. Thanks for having
Bye.
us. Much
Bye.
appreciated. Okay, take care. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Khodafis.